Welcome back to the channel everyone, and thank you for joining me today, because what you are about to hear sounds unbelievable at first, but by the end of this story you will understand why a simple everyday coin that most people have held without a second thought could potentially be worth an astonishing $33 million. And today we are diving deep into the fascinating world of the 1998 quarter dollar coin, a coin that on the surface looks ordinary, yet beneath that familiar design lies a combination of rare minting errors, unusual circumstances, historical timing, collector psychology, and what-if possibilities that together create one of the most talked about modern coin legends in the numismatic world. So imagine reaching into your pocket or an old jar of spare change and unknowingly touching a piece of history that could change your life forever. That sense of mystery and excitement is exactly why millions of people around the world continue to search their coins, and why stories like this one keep going viral year after year. The 1998 quarter dollar was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which traditionally does not use a mint mark on its coins, but in this case the P mint mark was added as part of a broader shift in minting practices, and this alone already places the coin in a specific moment in time when the United States Mint was transitioning processes, modernizing equipment, and experimenting with production efficiencies during the late 1990s. This era is important because whenever a mint changes tools, dies, metals, or procedures, the risk of errors increases dramatically, and collectors know that periods of transition are often where the rarest and most valuable mistakes are born. The 1998 quarter belongs to the Washington Quarter series, a design that had been around since 1932, and by the late 90s the dies used to strike these coins were under immense pressure to produce massive quantities for circulation just before the launch of the iconic state quarters program in 1999. This meant mints were running at full speed, pushing equipment to its limits, and when machines are pushed, mistakes happen, sometimes small and sometimes extraordinary, the kinds of mistakes that can turn pocket change into treasure. One of the most talked about errors associated with the 1998 quarter is the possibility of a double die, obverse or reverse, where parts of the design appear doubled due to a misalignment during the die creation process. Unlike machine doubling, which is common and not valuable, true double dies show strong rounded secondary images, especially in the lettering of Liberty, In God We Trust, or the date itself. And if a dramatic double die exists on a 1998 quarter in pristine condition with full mint luster and sharp details, it immediately places the coin into an elite category, because modern double dies are significantly rarer than those from earlier decades due to improved quality control, and when a modern double die slips through unnoticed, it becomes a legendary error that collectors aggressively pursue. Another powerful factor that could push a 1998 quarter toward a multi-million-dollar valuation is a wrong planchet error. Imagine a quarter that was mistakenly struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination or even a different metal composition altogether, such as a coin struck on a silver planchet, a foreign planchet, or a planchet intended for experimental testing. The weight, thickness, and color of such a coin would immediately raise red flags, and authentication by a top grading service would ignite massive interest, because wrong planchet errors from the modern era are extremely scarce, and when combined with a popular denomination like a quarter, the desirability multiplies exponentially. Even more astonishing is the theoretical possibility of a 1998 quarter struck on a 90% silver planchet leftover from older minting operations or experimental alloy testing. Although officially quarters were copper nickel clad by this time, history has shown that leftover planchets have occasionally been used accidentally, and when that happens the resulting coin becomes a once-in-a-generation discovery. Another category of error that could explain the staggering $33 million valuation is the presence of a mule error. A mule occurs when two dies that were never intended to be paired together are mistakenly used, such as a Washington quarter obverse paired with a reverse from a different coin series, or an incorrect year or design entirely. Mules are among the rarest and most coveted errors in numismatics because they represent a complete breakdown in minting protocol, and if a confirmed mule involving a 1998 quarter were discovered, especially one unique or one of only a handful known, it would instantly become a centerpiece of any major auction, drawing global attention from elite collectors, museums, and investors who understand that true rarity often transcends traditional price limits. Condition also plays a massive role in driving a coin's value into the stratosphere. A 1998 quarter with an extreme error but heavily worn might still be valuable, but one preserved in mint state or proof-like condition with flawless surfaces, sharp strikes, and original luster would be in a completely different league. Modern collectors place immense importance on condition, rarity, and eye appeal, and a top population example graded MS68, MS69, or even higher by a respected grading service would be considered virtually priceless, especially if it is the finest known example of its kind. Population reports matter because if a grading service shows only one coin with that specific error and grade, then competition becomes fierce and bidding wars can escalate rapidly as wealthy collectors fight for ownership of a piece that no one else can ever have. Another intriguing possibility tied to the 1998 quarter is a missing clad layer error. Quarters are composed of A copper core sandwiched between two copper-nickel layers, and when one of these layers fails to bond or is missing entirely, the coin appears lighter in color and weight and shows exposed copper on one side. While dramatic missing clad errors are known, they are still rare and highly collectible, and a fully missing layer combined with other anomalies such as off-center strikes or die cracks could push a coin into legendary status. Off-center strikes themselves add another layer of fascination. If a 1998 p-quarter were struck significantly off-center while still retaining a visible date and mint mark, collectors would consider it a major error, and the more dramatic and visually striking the off-center strike, the more valuable it becomes. Now imagine combining that with another error like a double strike where the coin was struck twice at different angles, or a broad strike where the coin was struck without a collar, allowing it to expand beyond its normal diameter. These combinations create compound errors, and compound errors are where valuations can explode because they demonstrate multiple independent failures in the minting process, all captured on a single coin. Die cracks and die breaks also play a role in the mythology surrounding ultra-valuable quarters. A severe die crack can create raised lines across the coin, while a retained cut or major die break can leave large blobs of metal on the surface. These dramatic features often give coins a unique appearance, almost like a fingerprint, making each one visually distinct. And when a coin has a massive retained cut or a spectacular die break that affects major design elements, collectors view it as a work of accidental art, and uniqueness is one of the strongest drivers of value in any collectible market. Historical context adds even more fuel to the fire. The late 1990s were a turning point for U.S. coinage as the state quarters program was about to begin capturing the attention of millions of Americans and bringing new collectors into the hobby. This surge of interest means that errors from just before the program launched are especially scrutinized because collectors often look back at transitional periods as moments when mistakes slipped through unnoticed, and if a rare 1998 p-quarter error was discovered after the state quarters craze took off, it could suddenly be thrust into the spotlight with massive demand from both seasoned numismatists and newcomers hoping to own a piece of pre-state quarter history. The story of value is also driven by psychology and storytelling. A coin rumored to be worth $33 million captures imagination, and once a narrative takes hold, it can significantly impact perceived value. Collectors are not just buying metal, they are buying a story, a mystery, and the thrill of owning something extraordinary. And if a specific 1998 p-quarter were linked to a documented discovery story, such as being found in circulation by an ordinary person, authenticated after years of skepticism, and finally recognized as a unique error, that narrative alone would elevate its status to legendary levels. Auction history shows us that when two or more ultra-wealthy collectors decide they must own the same unique item, price becomes almost irrelevant. At that level, the final hammer price reflects desire, ego, legacy, and the understanding that true rarity rarely comes around twice. Investment considerations also play a role, as rare coins have increasingly been viewed as alternative assets. Hedge funds and private investors have entered the numismatic market seeking tangible stores of value with historical significance and limited supply. A one-of-a-kind or near one-of-a-kind 1998 p-quarter error could easily be seen as a blue-chip collectible, especially if supported by expert analysis, population data, and strong provenance. Rumors of private sales at extreme valuations often circulate quietly within elite circles long before anything becomes public. And just because a coin has not yet sold at auction for $33 million does not mean such a valuation is impossible. The world's most valuable coins often change hands privately away from public view, adding to the mystery and speculation that drive interest even higher. What truly makes the idea of a $33,001,998 p-quarter so captivating is the fact that it challenges our assumptions about modern coins. People expect ancient gold coins or colonial rarities to hold extreme value, not something from the late 20th century, yet history has repeatedly shown that rarity, error, uniqueness, and demand matter far more than age alone, and modern minting errors are often rarer in relative terms because of improved technology, which means when a major mistake does occur, it can be exponentially more valuable than older, more commonly known errors. The possibility that such a coin could still be out there, unnoticed in a collection drawer or safety deposit box, keeps collectors searching and dreaming every time they examine their change magnification glass in hand, hope in their eyes, imagining that they might be the one to discover the next great numismatic treasure. The idea that a 1998 p-quarter could be worth $33 million is not just about metal and mistakes, it is about the intersection of history, technology, human error, and human passion. It is about the thrill of discovery and the belief that extraordinary value can hide in ordinary places. And that belief is what fuels this hobby and keeps stories like this alive year after year. So the next time you see a quarter dated 1998 with AP mint mark, do not dismiss it too quickly. Examine it closely, weigh it, study its details, because you never know, you might be holding a coin with an incredible story and unimaginable value. And if you enjoy exploring these unbelievable coin stories and want to stay updated on more rare discoveries, hidden treasures, and mind-blowing values, make sure you stay connected with the channel, because you never know which story might inspire you to check your change and uncover something truly life-changing. Next. 1992, $quarter dollar today because what we are about to explore sounds like something straight out of a movie trailer, a simple everyday coin that most people have spent without a second thought, a 1992 $quarter dollar, allegedly connected to a jaw-dropping value of $12 million. And if that number alone made you pause, then you are in the right place, because today we are diving deep into the fascinating world of rare coin errors, hidden mint mistakes, overlooked anomalies, and the strange chain of possibilities that can turn an ordinary piece of pocket change into a legendary treasure. So settle in, imagine you are holding a single quarter in your hand, and ask yourself how something so common could ever be worth more than luxury cars, mansions, and private islands, because the answer lies in the smallest details that most people never notice. The 1992 $quarter dollar was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, a facility known for producing massive quantities of coins intended for everyday circulation. And in 1992 the United States Mint was transitioning through subtle changes in equipment calibration, die maintenance routines, metal sourcing, and quality control pressures due to high demand for circulating coinage, which created the perfect environment for rare mistakes to slip through unnoticed. And while millions upon millions of 1992 quarters were produced and spent at face value, a tiny fraction may carry extreme anomalies that separate them from the rest, anomalies that collectors spend lifetimes searching for. Because in the world of numismatics, rarity is not just about age but about uniqueness, and uniqueness is born from error. One of the most talked about possibilities behind the $12 million valuation is the idea of a perfect storm error coin, meaning not just one mistake but multiple overlapping errors occurring on the same coin, which exponentially increases desirability. For example, imagine a 1992 quarter struck on the wrong planchet, such as a silver planchet intended for a different denomination or a foreign coin blank, which alone would already be extraordinary. But then add to that an off-center strike that dramatically shifts the design while still showing a full date and mint mark, followed by a dramatic double die obverse where Washington's profile appears doubled in a way visible to the naked eye. And suddenly you are no longer dealing with a normal error but a 1 in hundreds of millions anomaly. Collectors value such coins not just for how they look but for how improbable their existence is, because every stage of the minting process includes safeguards designed to prevent exactly these outcomes. Yet history proves that human systems are never perfect, and sometimes mistakes align. Another powerful factor often discussed is the possibility of transitional errors, where a coin is struck using dies, planchets, or metal compositions intended for a different year or experimental phase. During the early 1990s, the Mint conducted various internal tests on alloys, die steels, and striking pressures to improve longevity and reduce costs, and if a 1992 quarter were struck using an experimental alloy not meant for public release, that alone could place it into legendary territory. Especially if metallurgical analysis confirmed a unique composition never officially documented. Such discoveries rewrite reference books and ignite bidding wars, because collectors crave the unknown, the undocumented, the pieces that challenge established history. Another scenario that fuels the $12 million conversation involves extreme die errors, such as a catastrophic die crack or retained cut that dramatically alters the design. Imagine a quarter where a massive chunk of the die broke away, leaving a raised, blob-like formation across Washington's face or the eagle's wings, combined with a rotated die where the reverse is misaligned by a dramatic degree. Such errors are visually stunning and instantly recognizable, and when paired with high-grade preservation, meaning the coin shows minimal wear and sharp details, its value multiplies, because condition matters just as much as error severity. A flawless mistake is far rarer than a worn one. And then there is the allure of double denomination errors, a situation where a coin is struck on a planchet that already has a partial design from another denomination, such as traces of a dime or even a foreign coin, creating a surreal layered image. These coins tell a story of mechanical confusion inside the minting presses, where a blank was not properly ejected or a foreign planchet slipped into the production line, and because the Philadelphia Mint handles enormous volumes, the chances of such anomalies increase slightly, yet the odds remain astronomically low, which is why confirmed examples sell for staggering sums. The $12 million figure often reflects not just what has sold but what could sell under perfect conditions, such as a unique error confirmed by multiple grading services, showcased at major auctions, and fought over by elite collectors who view coins not just as collectibles but as historical artifacts and investment vehicles. Provenance plays a crucial role as well. If a 1992 quarter with extreme errors surfaced from an original mint bag or was discovered decades later in untouched condition, its story would add emotional weight and credibility. Collectors love narratives almost as much as they love rarity, because a coin with a documented journey becomes a piece of living history. Another fascinating angle involves mule errors, where the obverse and reverse dies from two different coin types are paired together accidentally. While extremely rare for quarters, such errors have occurred in other denominations. And if a 1992 P quarter were found with a mismatched reverse not intended for that series, it would instantly become one of the most important modern U.S. era coins ever discovered. The value of $12 million in this context reflects not just market hype but the reality that unique coins often transcend traditional pricing models, because when only one exists, the price becomes whatever the highest bidder is willing to pay, and in a world of wealthy collectors, museums, and investors, that number can climb rapidly. The discussion also includes the possibility of proof dies being used accidentally on circulation strikes, resulting in mirrored fields, sharper details, and unusual surface textures that do not match standard business strikes. Such hybrid coins blur the line between proof and circulation issues and are highly sought after, especially when they appear where they should not. Adding to the mystique is the fact that many people still do not check their change carefully, meaning incredible discoveries can and do happen outside of professional channels. Stories circulate of collectors finding rare errors in rolls from banks, estate sales, or even pocket change, fueling the belief that treasures are still out there waiting to be found. The 1992 P quarter is particularly intriguing because it sits at a crossroads of modern minting technology and old-school mechanical processes, meaning errors from both worlds can coexist, from digital hubbing mistakes to traditional die-wear issues. The market psychology behind such coins cannot be ignored either, because when a coin becomes associated with a headline-grabbing value, it attracts attention beyond the numismatic community, drawing in investors who see rare coins as alternative assets. This influx of capital can push prices higher, especially for coins with compelling stories and verified uniqueness. Critics may argue that $12 million sounds exaggerated, but history shows that rare collectibles often shatter expectations. From stamps to baseball cards to art, value is ultimately driven by demand and scarcity, and when both reach extremes, numbers lose their sense of scale. Another layer of intrigue comes from the idea of undiscovered varieties, subtle differences in die alignment, spacing, or design details that were never officially catalogued. If a 1992 P quarter displayed a previously unknown variety combined with dramatic errors, it would represent a new chapter in numismatic study, prompting articles, research papers, and competitive bidding. Authentication is key in these scenarios, and any coin claiming such value would undergo intense scrutiny, including microscopic examination, weight analysis, metal composition testing, and comparison with known examples. Only coins that pass these rigorous tests achieve legendary status, which is why the stories that endure are those backed by evidence. Yet the possibility remains that somewhere, perhaps in a forgotten jar or an old collection, a coin exists that meets all these criteria, waiting for the right eyes to recognize it. The romance of that possibility is what keeps collectors searching, keeps channels like this thriving, and keeps the dream alive that extraordinary value can hide in ordinary places. The 1992 P quarter dollar becomes a symbol of that dream, a reminder that even in a modern world dominated by mass production, individuality can still slip through, stamped into metal, preserved by chance, and rediscovered by curiosity. And as we wrap up this deep dive into why a simple quarter could be associated with a $12 million valuation, remember that the true power of these stories lies not just in the money but in the history, the mystery, and the thrill of discovery. So next time you hear the jingle of change in your pocket, take a moment to look a little closer, because you never know what secrets might be hiding in plain sight. And if you enjoyed exploring this incredible possibility and want to keep uncovering more stories of hidden treasures and mind-blowing coin values, make sure to stay connected with the channel, support the journey, and keep that curiosity alive, because the next legendary coin story could be just one video away. Next. 1967 quarter dollar. Today, this is the place where everyday pocket change transforms into jaw-dropping stories of hidden fortunes and unbelievable mistakes, and today we are diving deep into one of the most fascinating and talked about coins in American numismatic lore, a coin most people would never look at twice, the 1967 quarter dollar, a seemingly ordinary piece of change that has been whispered about in collector circles as being worth an astonishing $23 million under extremely rare circumstances. And as you settle in, imagine holding a simple quarter in your hand, feeling its weight, hearing the familiar clink of copper and nickel, never suspecting that within that small disc could be a story of minting chaos, historical transition, rare errors, impossible accidents, and once-in-a-lifetime possibilities that together can turn a 25-cent coin into a life-changing fortune. Because the year 1967 sits at a very unusual crossroads in United States coinage history, a time when the country was still adjusting to the removal of silver from circulating coins, when the mint was under intense pressure to produce massive quantities of change to fight a nationwide coin shortage, and when speed often took priority over perfection, creating the perfect storm for some of the most dramatic and valuable mint errors ever imagined. And to understand how a 1967 quarter could theoretically reach a value as high as $23 million, we must First, understand the environment in which it was born, because 1967 quarters were part of a special era between 1965 and 1967 when the United States Mint temporarily removed mint marks entirely to discourage hoarding, meaning number 1967 quarter carries a P, D, or S mint mark, which already sets the stage for confusion, misidentification, and error tracking challenges, and these quarters were clad coins, composed of an outer layer of copper nickel bonded to a pure copper core, a composition that was still relatively new at the time and not yet perfected, leading to bonding issues, improper layering, wrong planchet usage, and catastrophic minting flaws. And one of the most legendary possibilities that drives the extreme valuation of a 1967 quarter is the existence of an ultra-rare transitional error struck on a silver planchet intended for 1964 or earlier quarters, because although silver quarters were officially phased out in 1965, leftover silver blanks could theoretically have remained in mint hoppers or storage bins, and under the frantic production demands of the era, a silver planchet accidentally fed into the presses in 1967 would create a coin that should not exist, a 1967 dated quarter struck on a 90% silver planchet, instantly defying official mint records, and while a typical silver quarter already commands a premium, a confirmed 1967 silver quarter with full authentication, perfect condition, and unquestionable provenance would represent a once-in history anomaly, something collectors would battle fiercely to own, and when rarity collides with impossibility, values can explode into the tens of millions, especially when only one or two examples are believed to exist, and then there is the even more extraordinary possibility of a 1967 quarter struck on the wrong denomination planchet entirely, such as a silver dollar planchet, a half-dollar planchet, or even a foreign coin blank, which would result in dramatic differences in size, weight, thickness, and strike appearance, and these off-metal errors are among the most valuable in all of numismatics because they provide physical evidence of minting chaos that was never meant to leave the facility, and if a 1967 quarter were discovered struck on a silver dollar planchet, weighing far more than normal and bearing an incomplete or distorted design stretched across an oversized surface, it would instantly become one of the most important error coins ever documented, and collectors are not just paying for metal or age, they are paying for the story, the impossibility, and the proof that such a mistake slipped through quality control during one of the most turbulent periods in mint history, and another path to extreme value lies in the realm of double die errors, particularly a dramatic double die obverse or reverse that affects major design elements such as Washington's profile, the date, or the lettering, because double dies are created during the hubbing process when the die receives multiple misaligned impressions, and while many double dies are subtle, a strong, clearly visible double die on a 1967 quarter would stand out as an unmistakable error, and if combined with pristine condition and additional anomalies, such as a silver planchet or wrong metal strike, the value multiplies exponentially, pushing the coin far beyond typical price guides and into the realm of private auctions and museum-level acquisitions. And then there are strike errors so severe they border on the unbelievable, such as multiple struck coins where the planchet was struck 2, 3, or even 4 times with significant rotation between strikes, creating overlapping images of Washington's portrait and distorted eagles on the reverse, and while multi-strike errors exist across many years, a 1967 example with extreme rotation, deep strikes, and full design visibility would already be highly valuable, but when paired with the historical significance of the no-mint mark era and possible wrong planchet usage, it becomes something truly legendary, and collectors often imagine the mint floor in 1967, machines running day and night, operators rushing to meet quotas, dies wearing out quickly, planchets jamming, presses misfeeding, and quality inspectors overwhelmed, allowing coins with impossible combinations of errors to slip into circulation, where they would sit unnoticed for decades in drawers, jars, and collections, waiting for someone with a keen eye and a scale to uncover their secret. And one of the most discussed hypothetical scenarios involves a 1967 quarter struck on a pure copper planchet intended for cents, resulting in a coin with the diameter of a quarter but the color and weight of a cent, something that would immediately feel wrong in the hand, and while such errors are extremely rare, they are documented in other years, and the existence of a confirmed example from 1967 would electrify the numismatic world, especially if it showed a full, sharp strike and no signs of tampering. And condition plays an enormous role in pushing values to extreme levels, because a circulated error coin, even a rare one, will never command the same price as a flawless, mint-state example with blazing luster, sharp details, and no post-mint damage, and when collectors imagine a $23,001,967 quarter, they imagine a coin graded at the very top of the scale, preserved in near-perfect condition, perhaps pulled from a mint set, an old collection, or a forgotten roll before circulation ever took its toll, and the psychological impact of owning such a coin cannot be overstated, because it represents not just wealth, but discovery, the thrill of uncovering something the world did not know existed, and provenance adds another layer of value, because a coin with a documented history, perhaps traced back to a former mint employee, an old estate, or a sealed government package, carries a narrative that enhances its desirability. And when that narrative includes confirmation from top grading services, metallurgical testing proving its composition, and scholarly articles discussing its significance, the coin transcends being money and becomes an artifact, and the auction dynamics of such a piece would be unlike anything most collectors ever see, with elite buyers, institutions, and private collectors competing not just with money, but with prestige, because owning the most valuable 1967 quarter ever discovered would secure a permanent place in numismatic history. And the figure of $23 million is not arbitrary, it reflects the upper limits of what has been paid for unique era coins and historic rarities when the conditions are perfect, when supply is literally one, and when demand is global, and skeptics often ask how a modern clad quarter could ever reach such heights, but history has shown again and again that rarity plus story plus authentication equals explosive value, and the 1967 quarter sits at the intersection of all three, because it comes from a misunderstood year, a transitional period, and a minting environment ripe for mistakes, and even beyond physical errors, there is speculation about experimental compositions, test strikes, and undocumented trials that may have occurred behind closed doors, because the mint was experimenting with different cladding techniques, bonding pressures, and metal ratios, and a 1967 quarter struck using an experimental alloy that was never approved for circulation would be the ultimate discovery, especially if its composition could not be matched to any known production coin, making it a true mystery piece. And collectors live for mysteries, because mysteries drive imagination, research, debate, and ultimately value, and the idea that such a coin could still be out there fuels countless searches through old change, inherited collections, and forgotten boxes, because every collector dreams of finding the one coin that changes everything, and while the vast majority of 1967 quarters are worth face value or modest premiums, the possibility, however slim, that an extraordinary example exists keeps the legend alive, and it reminds us that coins are not just objects, they are witnesses to history, mistakes, human error, and moments when the system failed just enough to create something extraordinary, and as you listen to this story, you might find yourself looking differently at the change in your pocket, wondering what secrets it might hold, because the story of the 1967 quarter is ultimately about potential, about the thin line between ordinary and priceless, and about how knowledge transforms perception, turning a simple coin into a symbol of hidden wealth and untold stories. And if you've enjoyed diving into this incredible tale of errors, mistakes, and million-dollar possibilities, make sure you stay connected with the channel for more deep dives into the coins that could be worth a fortune. Because you never know, the next legendary discovery might already be sitting right in front of you. Today, this is the place where everyday objects turn into extraordinary stories and pocket change transforms into hidden treasure. And in today's deep dive we are exploring one of the most fascinating and talked about modern U.S. coins, the 1992 D Washington quarter, a coin that at first glance looks completely ordinary yet has been surrounded by legends, rumors, collector discoveries, mint anomalies, and astonishing valuation stories that push its potential worth into the unbelievable range of $8 million. And as we begin this journey together, imagine holding a simple quarter in your hand, the same type you might have used for parking meters, vending machines, or small purchases, never suspecting that a specific combination of errors, mistakes, production anomalies, and historical circumstances could elevate that humble coin into a once-in-a-lifetime numismatic phenomenon, because the 1992 D quarter is not valuable simply for being old or rare in the traditional sense, but because it represents the perfect storm of minting variables that collectors spend decades searching for. And to understand how a quarter from the Denver Mint dated 1992 could reach such an astronomical valuation, we must first step back into the early 1990s, a time when the United States Mint was producing massive quantities of coinage to meet everyday circulation demand, operating high-speed presses around the clock, striking millions upon millions of coins with incredible efficiency but also with an unavoidable margin for error. And it is within that margin that legends are born, because while most 1992 D quarters are worth only face value, a microscopic fraction emerged with extraordinary characteristics that set them apart, and these characteristics are not simple scratches or wear but deeply embedded mint errors that occurred during planchet preparation, die creation, die installation, striking pressure, alignment, and even metal composition, and one of the most widely discussed possibilities behind the $8 million valuation is the existence of extreme double die varieties, where the working die itself was misaligned during hubbing, causing the design elements such as the date, the word liberty, in God we trust, and Washington's profile to appear doubled in a dramatic and unmistakable way, not the kind of machine doubling that collectors dismiss, but true hub doubling with strong separation lines and raised secondary images that can be seen without magnification. And if such a dramatic double die obverse or reverse exists for the 1992 D quarter, especially one unknown or undocumented at the time of discovery, its value could instantly skyrocket due to its uniqueness, because rarity in numismatics is not just about age but about how many examples exist and whether the variety is recognized. And another error that fuels the $8 million narrative is the possibility of an off-metal strike, where a quarter planchet was accidentally struck on a blank intended for another denomination or even a foreign coin. And while off-metal strikes are known, a 1992 D quarter struck on a silver planchet, a clad dime planchet, or a foreign alloy blank of unusual composition would represent a spectacular mint blunder, particularly if metallurgical testing confirmed a composition never intended for quarters of that year. And imagine a quarter weighing significantly more or less than standard, ringing differently when dropped, and showing edge characteristics inconsistent with copper-nickel-clad coinage, because such a coin would not only be visually fascinating but historically important as evidence of a breakdown in mint controls. And then there is the realm of wrong planchet thickness and wrong planchet diameter errors, where a quarter design is struck on a blank that is too thin, too thick, too small, or too large, resulting in missing design elements, distorted rims, or incomplete legends. And when these errors are extreme and visually dramatic, collectors place enormous premiums on them, especially when they are tied to a popular denomination like the Washington quarter, which has one of the largest collector bases in American numismatics. And yet another layer of intrigue comes from the possibility of missing clad layer errors, where one side of the coin lacks the copper-nickel outer layer, exposing the reddish copper core beneath, creating a striking two-tone appearance that is immediately noticeable. And while missing clad layer quarters are known, they are still rare, and when combined with additional anomalies such as double strikes or off-center strikes, their value increases exponentially. And speaking of off-center strikes, a 1992 D quarter struck significantly off-center while still retaining a visible date and mint mark could be worth a fortune, because collectors prize off-center errors that show a large percentage of blank planchet while preserving key identifying features. And if such an error were combined with a second strike or a rotated die, the result would be a visually stunning coin that defies expectations. And then there is the mysterious category of rotated dies, where the obverse and reverse are misaligned beyond acceptable tolerances, sometimes by 90 degrees or even 180 degrees, creating a coin that appears twisted when flipped. And while minor rotations are common, extreme rotations are rare and highly desirable, especially when they occur on modern coins where mint quality control was supposedly at its peak. And another fascinating possibility is the existence of a brockage error, where a previously struck coin becomes stuck to a die and impresses its mirror image onto a blank planchet, resulting in one normal side and one incuse, reverse side. And a full brockage quarter from 1992 D would be an extraordinary find, particularly if well preserved, because brockages offer a dramatic glimpse into the chaotic moments inside a minting press. And then we enter the realm of die breaks, cut errors, and retained cuds, where pieces of the die crack or break away, leaving raised blobs of metal on the coin's surface, sometimes obscuring entire words or design elements. And while small die cracks are common, massive cuds that cover large areas of the coin are rare and visually captivating. And when such cuds appear on both sides of the coin or in conjunction with other errors, they become legendary, and some collectors believe that an undiscovered 1992 D quarter exists with an enormous cud combined with a double strike and an off-center strike, a so-called compound error that would represent multiple simultaneous failures in the minting process. And it is these compound errors that can push values into the millions because they are often unique, with only one example known. And uniqueness is the holy grail of numismatics, because when only one coin exists, its value is determined not by a price guide but by what a top collector is willing to pay. And that brings us to the human side of the $8 million valuation, because coins do not exist in a vacuum. They exist within a marketplace driven by passion, competition, prestige, and the desire to own something no one else has. And in high-end numismatics, collectors with vast resources compete for trophy coins, pieces that define their collections and secure their legacy. And if a single 1992 D quarter were certified by a major grading service as a unique, previously unknown, spectacular error in pristine condition, it could ignite a bidding war unlike anything seen before for a modern coin, especially if the coin's story captured the public imagination, because narrative matters. And a coin discovered in circulation, perhaps found in a roll or pocket change decades after its creation, carries a romance that resonates deeply with collectors. And then there is the possibility of transitional errors, which occur when the mint changes designs, compositions, or processes. And while 1992 is not widely known as a transition year for quarters, subtle changes in dies, hubs, or metal sourcing could have occurred behind the scenes, and a quarter struck using experimental materials or leftover components from previous or subsequent years would represent a significant historical anomaly. And some theories even suggest the existence of proof dies accidentally used at the Denver Mint, resulting in a business strike quarter with proof-like surfaces, razor-sharp details, and mirrored fields, and if such a coin were confirmed as a genuine proof die strike with a D mint mark, it would be nothing short of sensational, because proof coins are not supposed to bear mint marks from circulation mints, and such a mistake would represent a breach of long-standing mint protocols. And another avenue of value comes from condition rarity, because even without dramatic errors, coins graded at the absolute top of the scale can command staggering prices, and if a 1992 D quarter were discovered with flawless surfaces, perfect strike, and extraordinary eye appeal, earning a grade that no other example has achieved, it could become the finest known. And while condition alone is unlikely to reach $8 million, when combined with rare errors, it amplifies value dramatically. And we must also consider the role of misinformation and exaggeration, because stories of multi-million-dollar coins often circulate online without verification, yet within these stories there is often a kernel of truth, a genuine rare error that sold for a significant sum and then grew in legend through repetition. And for collectors, the challenge is separating myth from reality while remaining open to the possibility that undiscovered treasures still exist, because history has shown us time and again that incredible coins do surface unexpectedly, and the 1992 D quarter remains especially intriguing because billions were minted, increasing the odds that rare errors could be hiding in collections, jars, and rolls across the country, waiting for someone with a sharp eye and knowledge of minting anomalies to recognize their significance. And that is why collectors examine their coins so carefully, weighing them, measuring them, studying their edges, comparing fonts, looking for doubling, checking alignment, and even listening to the sound they make when dropped, because each detail can reveal a clue. And the $8 million valuation represents the extreme upper limit of what is possible when rarity, condition, error type, and collector demand converge, not a guarantee but a tantalizing possibility. And it serves as a reminder that value in numismatics is not fixed, it is dynamic, shaped by discovery, scholarship, and passion. And as we reflect on the 1992 D quarter and its potential, we are reminded that every coin tells a story, some louder than others, and sometimes the quietest, most ordinary coins carry the most extraordinary secrets. So as you go about your day and handle your change, remember that history, mystery, and immense value can be hiding in plain sight. And if you enjoy uncovering these hidden stories of everyday coins and exploring the possibilities that make them worth big money, stay connected with the channel, because there are countless more tales waiting to be told, and who knows, the next legendary discovery could be closer than you think.